Hi, it's Steve from PartSelect. Today we're going to show you how to change the condenser fan motor on your refrigerator, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a 3/8 socket with an extension and a ratchet, a 1/4-inch nut driver, and a flat blade screwdriver. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, since we will be working near some electrical circuits, we'll want to pull the refrigerator out far enough to unplug it. And then we're going to turn the refrigerator around because all of the work that we'll be doing will be at the back of the refrigerator. Now with the back panel removed, we now have access to the condenser fan motor and bracket assembly. So our first step will be to disconnect this little hook that holds onto the condenser itself and attaches to the bracket. So with a flat blade screwdriver, just carefully go in behind there. Be careful not to damage the tubing. Just spread that clip enough that you can push the tubing out of the slot on it. And that will allow you to slide that up and off the bracket. Just set that aside. And next we're going to remove two 3/8 bolts that are at the bottom of that motor bracket. So you can push the bracket a little bit to the left to gain a little access. Just pivot that motor enough that we can access the bolt in the rear. Now use caution that we don't put any stress on the tubing on that condenser or any of the tubing near the compressor. And also be careful of the sharp edges on that fins on that condenser. And now we can just move that motor and bracket enough that we can access the harness connector at the back of the motor and depress the locking tab. And then pull that connector off of the motor. Now it's probably going to be fairly snug in there, and you may need to hold the locking tab down with a flat blade screwdriver and then pull with your other hand. Now once we've removed those mounting bolts, we're next going to just turn that motor and bracket enough, again being careful that we don't damage any of the tubing, until we can access the screws that hold that motor to the bracket. And using our 1/4-inch nut driver, we'll remove those. Now we can turn those brackets out of that motor mount. I just have a hook on the back side of those. Pivot them out. Now that will allow us to turn that motor enough that we can clear the tubing here and pull the rest of the assembly out. And then we can just discard the old condenser fan motor and motor bracket. Now our next step will be to assemble the new condenser fan motor assembly. So we're going to take that motor, and coming from the curved side of that motor mounting bracket, we'll insert the shaft of the motor through that large hole, and we're going to flip it over, and we'll install the little 1/4-inch hex head machine screw came with the kit. We'll tighten those securely so that we don't have any vibration when that motor is running. And when it's installed, the harness end of that motor should be pointing away from the beveled flat edge of that bracket. Now next we'll install the fan blade. We'll put the closed end out. We'll just slide that onto that shaft and press it firmly. We'll want to maintain a clearance of about 1/16 of an inch from the face of this bracket and the outside edge of the hub of that fan blade. And we want the fan blade sticking out about 1/16 of an inch past that face of that bracket. Now there is a little play in that motor shaft, so the measurement that we take will be with the play pushed inward. So just take a straight edge across there and get it to within 1/16 of an inch will be just fine. Now once we've got that properly set, we'll next take the foam gasket, which is self-adhesive, and we're going to lay that around the folded edge of that motor bracket and make sure that's firmly attached to the motor bracket. And we're now ready to put the assembly back into the refrigerator. Now when reinstalling the new motor mount, I'm going to just carefully slide that in on an angle, and we'll keep that lip underneath the condenser coils itself. Again, take caution that we don't force any bends in that tubing. Once we've got it in past the lip, we can just rotate it around and try to line up that rear mounting hole as close as possible. And we'll set that 3/8 bolt into the hole. We'll take our socket and extension and line it up. Once we have it started, we can now use our ratchet to tighten it. And we do want to make sure that we have that bolt snug. Don't want any vibration while this motor is running. So make sure it's tightened fully. Just use caution that we don't over tighten it and strip the bolt. And that should allow us enough to roll the bracket into position to put the front bolt in. Next, we'll install that little plastic clip that hooks onto the condenser and the motor bracket. So just slide it over the bracket, pull it down far enough that it lines up with the coil on the condenser. And using our flat blade screwdriver, I'm just going to spread that clip just enough to allow it to hook. Next, we'll reconnect the wire harness. This will line up that locking tab with the harness. And then fully insert it. And just rotate that around and make sure that we do have it all the way in and that locking tab is engaged. We're now ready to put the back panel back in position. We're now ready to reconnect the power, and our repair is complete. I told you it was an easy job. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your repair.